Hello, friends, and welcome to Inks and Issues, a book club podcast for comics. I'm your host, Jonah Gregory.
Oh no, it's my favorite game. I'm Kieran Bennett.
And with us this week, we have a special guest, Tim Lanning.
Hey, everybody. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
And you've been on the show a couple of times before, but it has been a hot minute, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time I was on. Maybe for Thor, I think, because I think that's what the G-Chat said. We need to change our G-Chat title to Runaways.
It's true. So today we'll be discussing Runaways, which was, I would say not recently anymore, turned into, a show or something? I don't know. I never saw it. Anybody watch it here?
You mean the music videos of the band? I didn't read any comic books. I simply watched live performances of the Runaways, the music. It's a little joke. I'm sorry. No,
that's good because that's what I did too.
I meant to watch it and I didn't because I took a small nap instead.
That's fair. Was it a show or a movie? Anybody?
Show.
It was a show.
Okay,
yeah.
I think that's what made me originally pick this book up, and then right after I was already reading it, I think, then you were like, hey, we should talk about Runaways sometime.
Yeah,
and now it's finally happening.
I've talked to someone about it. I think it's the same person that recommended me the comic. Shout out to Penn, who, when I was asking for comic recommendations, he was like, do this, it's good. And then we just chatted about lots of other different comics. And he's like, yeah, I think it was him that said it. That was like, yeah, the show was not great, but it was like going places and they changed like a lot of things. There's like a lot of changes, and I forget what all of them are. I watched the trailer and I was like, this looks like shit. But maybe
and I kind of want to watch it.
Yeah.
I was like, it sounds you're selling it.
I've been meaning to, because they keep Old Lace in it, which I think is like the weirdest thing. And I hope they keep the hard R's and the misogyny. And when did this book come out? Because every time I read it, I'm like, it's so funny because this is supposed to be like Marvel's woke comic, and they drop a hard R in the first like 2 pages. And
I mean, it is like Marvel's woke comic from 2003.
Yes,
so.
yes.
Yeah. I read this volume a while ago, and then I was like, man, I can't remember why I had issues with this. And then within, a page, I was like, page 1, last panel.
Yep.
This is why.
I have read a lot of the Runaways, and it's very good. It's very weird. And, they're really good at, like, introducing new characters, introducing, like, wild plot points, and, like, weird shit like time travel. And once they get away from this first, like, section, it doesn't do that stuff anymore, and it is kind of weird. They lean into the one character where, what's her name, Dorsey, the one with the purple hair. She goes by
Darcy.
Gertrude.
Yeah, she goes by Arsenic later. So she's sort of like the moral quote unquote compass. So like when one character does a homophobia or whatever, she's like, don't, and then they're like, okay, we learned a lesson together type situation.
Okay.
Right.
But then still they have like, it's an incredibly diverse crew, and they hang out with like what are they, the Immortals, I think they are, the Hulkling and all them, and they're gay and stuff, and there's a lot of gay characters and gay relationships, and then there's like, it's like, oh no, I'm bi, and things like that. But yeah, no, I really like it.
That was how I came out too.
Yeah,
it was during a podcast. That was the weird thing.
I just went, oh no, I'm bi, as it just happened.
Yeah,
and, that's how.
I won't spoil how that happens, but it's like it's fucking wild. The show really goes places, and in the first section, there's like a really cool twist, and you get a little taste of it in this first volume, and I really liked it. It's really weird, but in a good way. And yeah, I forget how many issues I've read, but I think like 8, maybe 9, 10.
I started volume 2 right, like just earlier today, but I kind of ran out of time. So I was hoping to have more to say on that at the end, but I will not. So
yeah, and I mean, if anyone wants to read, like it's free on Comixology Unlimited, which I'm now happy to talk about and kind of praise because I can get it. So
finally, you don't have to cheat the system anymore.
Oh no, I did have to do that. I had to change my residency to the United States.
So this is including all the crazy hoops you have to jump through to have it in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just in case Jeff Bezos is listening, I had to change my residency to the United States because that is 100% where I live. That's where I am.
Totally.
Yeah.
He's just living in my backyard. If you want to go check. I mean,
yeah.
All right.
I'm chilling in that pool you have.
Yes,
can I tease a future
trough.
Character? There's like the son of Ultron that shows up, and I kind of forget if that's who he is because they
is he a robot?
Yeah, he's something. It's weird.
Okay.
So he's really cool.
Yeah,
All right.
and he's bisexual too.
I would hope so.
He might be.
This is written by Brian K. Vaughan, pencils by Adrian Alfona, I'm not sure. Inks by David Newbold and Craig Young. Colors by Brian Reber, and the cover art was done by, like a lot of these, done by a variety of artists, it looks like. So Brian K. Vaughan is a very well-known and problematic person that I think we're all aware of. So we're going to dive right into issue 1 then, and I'll go ahead and do the summary for that one. So we actually open with what is clearly not really the Avengers fighting the Hulk, because it's actually a bunch of kids playing a online game and dropping hard R's and making...
That's what the Avengers do, right?
And making Sue Storm all slutty, and I'm like, an online game with licensed characters of what would be real people in this universe, I doubt would allow you to change the avatar to be almost completely nude version of, Sue Storm, but there is that very brief period where her costume, designed by her in the canon of the comic, is barely a 2-piece bikini. So, I don't know. Dudes wrote this.
It could happen.
Dudes wrote this. I'll put it that way.
yeah. There's a lot of stuff in this the 2013 or the 2003 version that doesn't hold up, and that's one of them.
Yeah. So we are introduced to all the different teen protagonists via seeing them all getting ready to go to this party thing or get together thing that their parents do once a year. It's supposed to be that their parents are all, influential people, and they get together and plan their charity work for the year. And the kids are just have to tag along because, they're all single children. Weirdly, I somehow that never registered with me that was a unique thing.
Huh.
Yeah, there are no siblings.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Huh.
That's so weird.
Isn't that interesting?
Huh. Wonder if that'll come back.
Have you guys
around.
read any more of the comic? I'm sorry, Jonah. I know you said you read.
Not far enough to know if there's a reason for that. Put it that way.
Is it a spoiler to say there is?
This will be spoiling the hell out of what's in volume 1, by the way, because that's it's a book club. So we assume you either read it or don't care if we spoil it.
Yeah.
Just throw that out there for the people watching the stream. So they go to the house of Alex, who's kind of the leader of the group. Well, not kind of. He becomes the leader of the group, actually, very quickly once things start hitting the fan. And he is the son of the two that we never really get a sense of them having any kind of powers. Like, they seem to be the masterminds, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like their powers are they're rich and influential, which, in some ways...
Bruce Wayne.
It is the biggest power of all.
Yeah.
It is the biggest power of all.
They go into their backstory later, and that is one of the weirder things of the beginning is like... when you're first reading this first issue, it's like everyone's starting to get their first volume. Everyone's starting to get their powers or their thing,
right?
Even if one person's power is a psychic link to a velociraptor or whatever. But then later they do say that Alex is like a genius intellect and strategy doer. And so like, oh, okay, that's what's
even
happening.
the dad. His dad is like, oh, he's such a prodigy at this, so we'll have to be, we'll get into why, But there's so basically volume 1 is like 6 different heroes' origin stories kind of like compressed down into these few issues here, which, that's you got to do what you got to do when you're introducing an entire new team.
Yeah.
I vibe with it, you know?
And it's cool because you're like, for some of them, you'll be like, the cover, you know, is like, okay, she's flying.
Right, it gives it away just a scotch, you know, just a little.
Yeah.
Well, they don't show like what her deal is, so that is nice. But yeah,
right. So they all meet at the giant house because they're all, you know, ridiculously wealthy because of secret reasons, and all the kids
because of charity.
Well, because of all the charity work that pays
themselves.
well.
Yeah.
And then the kids are like, kind of, okay, go away now. To like the parents send them off to the game room to play, and the game room is
the
great
adult thing.
because I mean the kids aren't really friends, even though they know each other because they only see each other once a year, which is another thing where I'm like, I'm guessing that comes into play later. Like they were purposely keeping them apart because they didn't want them accidentally discovering their powers or something. Like that's just a theory I'm coming up with from reading volume 1.
Ooh.
Honestly, I just assumed that the parents were like just being parents, where they were like, well, you've met this person once, so obviously you're best friends and you know them.
Yeah.
Like when your parents are like, oh, this is such and such. You've met them 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Clearly you know them.
Yeah, I think they, this is not me, you know, remember, I think they might even retcon that later, where it's like, okay, you guys ran into each other every now and again. But I can't remember if that comes up. But yeah, because basically they become friends like really quickly, and I think they try. I might be completely misremembering something, but
And they may have just been being like teens that are just like, oh, I don't want to go.
yeah,
I don't want to be here, so I'm gonna sit and stare at the floor.
yeah. And then like they do like the comic book thing of like, yeah, I never told you, but you know, we went to the same school, or we hung out, or whatever.
Yeah.
I saw with them all, or, you know.
So one of my favorite panels in this entire book, which I sent you guys as I was reading it, is they're all sitting around in the game room, which is full of arcade machines, which, I mean, I would think is cool even now, but, you know.
Right, they're all been like, I'm bored as hell, and
I'm like, dude, you could be playing Oh Boy, or Racing is Fun. I mean, come on. It's a very good collection of fake games. One of them is just called Pinball, I believe.
Yeah.
Pinball, the game.
I looked up an Avengers pinball cabinet, and I'm like, well, I don't want to get the bottom tier one.
Right.
It was like $9,000.
Whew, boy, yeah. Pinball is not
Listen.
only expensive to get initially, but the upkeep is
Yeah, I've
also
heard
really
that.
expensive.
But I
All
wanted.
you need to do to get the Avengers pinball cabinet, invest in a little bit of GameStop,
Mm-hmm.
give it a couple days,
There you go.
you'll be
Boom,
golden.
baby! I'm down $100 on Bed Bath and Beyond, AMC, and Nokia.
Well, I had a neighbor whose mom was an antique dealer, and there was a kid my age, so I wasn't just like going up to this strange woman's house and like hanging out there or something. But
I mean, small town USA. I mean,
that's fair. But but anyway, they had a pinball machine, like an antique one, and it was maybe running half the time at best because they're just so prone to like breaking down. It was cowboy themed. So anyway, okay, back to the book here. So all the kids are bored, so they're like, hey, you know what's fun? Spying on our parents. Except they keep calling them the Rents, which is a thing that I don't think a teen has ever said in the history of the world.
I mean, 2003 was a different time, you know.
True. All the kids were saying that's so wizard, and you know, it was very different.
I guess I'm the character's age. I don't think we would ever say the Rents, but I could definitely see, oddly enough, like a TV show set during this place doing it, which is really weird, you know?
Oh, yeah, it definitely, all of the teen dialogue, and this was the thing I was going to bring up at some point, is definitely written by someone who has not been a teenager for a very, very long time.
Yeah, there are some points where like they'll be talking to each other, and it feels very natural. And then there are other times where they will say things like, you know, wow, this is really, you know, bombastic, Mr. Fantastic. Am I right, everyone? Let's go flip some kicks at the mall. And it's like, come on.
Yeah. I feel like Gertrude is written really poorly, and they find her voice later. But yeah, she's just kind of like the SJW. Like, you know, it's like, oh, I love socialism, and, you know, I'm here to like scold you. So like, you know, now we're kind of like thankful that she's there to keep like Chase in line, so to speak. But I'm not sure that's what the author wants you to think. I do think that Molly is almost consistently written really well. It feels very precocious, like TV character, like how old is she? She's like 12 or something like that. 12-year-old.
Yeah, she's the youngest by several years or a couple years, it seems like.
Yeah, like 12-year-old played by like a 17-year-old type thing. That's like really kind of extra precocious. And she has like the Bob's Burger thing where she always has like hats on and things like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I also have to say, you reminded me of it saying, younger person played by a 17-year-old. She is drawn like in a way that makes that feel accurate, that statement, because she looks way too old to be like 11 or 12 like she's supposed to be. And I don't know if that's just my perception. I'm around younger people because I have kids and, they play with neighbor kids. So like that whole age range is kind of represented in the neighborhood that I'm like seeing every day. So seeing, especially compared to the other kids, I'm like, why does she look at least, if not older than these other kids if she's the youngest? She's just shorter.
I'm never around children, thankfully. So to me, she seemed appropriate.
Okay.
Especially because the other kid's like 15 or 16.
Okay. Maybe it was just me then. All right. So the kids are bored. So they decide to spy on their parents, as we said. So it turns out that the Winters household, which is where they are, Alex is like the leader dude. He's like, hey, my dad has all these crazy catacombs and stuff for security, secret passages throughout the house, which of course everyone's like, why? Is he like a massive perv? They're like, no, he's not. It's security for some reason. That's not weird to have crazy secret passages, right?
Yeah.
So they climb through one and they find a two-way mirror where they can watch this, where their parents are meeting, and are shocked to find that they are now all wearing really weird costumes. And talking about strange non-charity related things that the kids don't really understand. And they're like, oh man, this is sweet. Our parents are superheroes. And then, they reveal a secret passage within that room where a captive young woman is. And then they stab her in the heart for some sort of ritual. Mm-hmm. And Nico, who is the daughter of the two witch-powered people, evil magic, I don't know what you call it. She screams from behind the mirror, but they're able to like muffle it. So the parents are, immediately like, what was that? And that's the end of issue 1. So initial impressions. Kieran, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, initial impressions. As we already said, some of the dialogue is pretty bad. Like it does really have that kind of feel of like, I reckon this is what kids would sound like. Mm-hmm. And I'm not really going to check to see if I'm right. Which like, I admire that confidence, but it does sometimes make the interactions between them feel like just really weird. That said though, I was totally digging this. I was really on board with it. I thought the setup is kind of, it's quite rapid, so like there's not really a lot of fucking around, and like you're immediately kind of into it. I think it definitely kind of comes with time, but like because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6 of them. They do try to be like, this one is this one, and this one is this one, and this one is this one, and so like they can kind of feel a little bit like kind of stereotypes, but I feel like it gets better with time. So I was on board. Tim, what about you?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's definitely a situation where, hopefully you were recommended the comic as opposed to just seeing the front and reading it and, anything like that. Because I think the premise is immediately interesting. The idea of like, first of all, we're in California and, that's different. And they think their parents are superheroes. And it's like, oh, cool. Another thing like this. But no, from the outset, no one of the characters that we're following have powers, as far as we know. And then it gets flipped upside down. And then it turns into like a really unique genre piece of like, what would you do about this? I think one of the reasons why I was like kind of hesitant to watch the show is it almost felt like it was a like horror thing, but maybe I think that's just somewhat easier to do CW style. I'm not too sure. But yeah, no, I really liked it. Reading it again, I was kind of being like, wow, the dialogue's not that great, but you know what? We kind of understand all the gists here of I have to go hang out with these kids I don't really like that much because my parents are weird. Ugh, our parents are so weird and boring. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if I wasn't reading this based on heavy recommendations from several people pre us doing it for the show, I would have immediately bounced off that first page. I'm just going to say that right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like it's so unnecessary and adds nothing.
Yeah,
it just doesn't need to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I since we chatted last, I've read a horrific amount of Ultimate Spider-Man, I want to say. And yeah, man, that is wild. Also dropping the hard R's and other thing. Yeah, it's just wild of like, I guess it was cool to do that. No one cared in 1999 or whenever, in early 2000s and stuff like that. It was like, wow, that's fucking wild.
It's hard to go back to that specific era for this very reason of older writers trying to sound cool.
Yeah.
Trying to sound cool, yeah.
I was tweeting about it.
They were very much writing for that younger audience with Ultimates and stuff. Like, what are the kids into these days?
Yeah.
Slurs.
What are the kids into? Slurs.
Yeah, when I was reading about it, I was like, yeah, that was a bad era. They were, they might have, like, it seems like they were definitely doing it on purpose when everyone was like, you shouldn't be doing this. They're like, yeah, but we're cool now for doing it.
We're edgy.
We're edgy, yeah.
We're edgy. We play MMOs and video games and also make slurs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Kieran, do you want to take issue 2 for us?
Buddy, you bet I do.
Hell yeah.
Where is it? I have like 6 billion windows open at the moment.
Close them.
All right. Issue 2. The parents, or the rents, as we should actually be calling them, they split up to check the catacombs and the pervert passages and make sure that the kids haven't seen anything. But the kids quickly play a game of Twister to cover up the fact that they were, why they're occupied and why they might have been screaming and stuff like that, which I think was the perfect cover story.
Yes.
And after a little bit of...
Surprisingly worked for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was actually pretty good. After a bit of discussion and arguing, they realize that their parents are actually supervillains.
Oh my gosh.
Bum, bum, bum.
Who could have seen that coming? Because they're trying to like kind of justify the murder at first. Like, well, maybe that was a bad person. It's like, yeah, but you probably shouldn't go around executing people, even if they like robbed a convenience store.
Yeah.
What if this 17-year-old girl deserved to be stabbed in the heart in the basement? Did you ever think of that?
Maybe it was like a play or something weird like that. We don't know.
Yeah, it is really interesting. Like, it kind of pops up again later, but it is really interesting how like. Even several issues after several issues have passed, there's still occasionally bits where they're like, "Oh yeah, but like my parents are actually pretty good, so I'm not too sure about that." Yeah. So their parents come to collect the kids and ask them to help them move a trunk full of donated antiques, but it's most likely just the body of the stabbed girl stuffed into a trunk.
But can you imagine? That's very bold of the parents to be like, hey kids, help us dispose of this body.
Yeah, right? We're pretty confident that you saw us kill this person, but why don't you just pick it up and take it to the car?
Right, and it would be super heavy.
Right. People weigh a lot of pounds.
Yeah,
they're heavy.
People do weigh a lot of pounds.
What do you got in here, bodies? Yes.
Yes, maybe I do. Alex and Nico make plans to meet up later that night with the other kids at the James Dean Memorial.
Yeah, the only thing I can figure with this was because rebel without a cause, and they're rebels with a cause.
Oh.
They're the James Dean now.
There we go. I'm a James
That was the
Dean.
only
just
reason
assumed
I
it was a
figured they
real
picked
thing.
that location, or maybe
Yeah.
just, maybe someone on the team just was like, "No, we got to do this so I can draw it."
Someone on the team was like, "Oh no, kids say slurs and they love James
Those are the
Dean."
two things we know about children.
Those are the only two
Kids
things we
in
know.
2003.
And they're right. They're right. I mean,
Did you ever go and
Yeah.
watch those James Dean movies because you felt like you had to? Because I sure did.
no.
I still feel like I should.
Yeah.
My friend's dad watched some of them, so I saw some of them.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry, that's a sidetrack.
The kids decide to call the police, but of course the police just think it's a prank call. And it turns out that the Avengers hotline is apparently just an answering machine, which seems not very helpful. And yeah, that seems really bad.
Yeah.
Why would it?
They needed
Why?
a reason to not be able to call actual superheroes in,
Mhm.
and so
Yes.
they had to make anytime this happens in the comics, I've noticed they have to make the Avengers actually really incompetent or really but only on that side of things, like the paperwork side of things. Essentially, is like the part they're
Yeah.
terrible at, because Tony's just like, I got people that handle that, man. I'm too busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They lean on the fact that they're in California and that
Mhm.
there's no villains here, so there's no superheroes here either. A lot of times, which is really funny.
Yeah, they're just pretending the West Coast Avengers never happened, I guess, at this point.
This West Coast Avengers erasure will not stand.
Mhm.
So they realize that it's up to them to bring their parents to justice, and they all decide to go search for evidence that would prove that their parents are evil murderers. And they arrive at Gertrude's house and search the basement for clues. They find a control panel and very easily guess their parents' password is Pride, which is literally the name of their supervillain group.
Right.
I don't want to say that this is 100% a password that your parents would have, but
Well, they did make the joke that one of their parents' password was still password from setting up the account. So
true.
they were
Yeah.
like,
True.
I'm not surprised this is easy. Our parents are terrible at this. Which I'm
Yeah.
like, you'd think the super evil, smart supervillain group would know better, but apparently they're like, who's going to come down here?
The
Nobody.
hubris, the
hubris, yeah. And I mean, to be fair, two of them are supposed to be like super genius strategic people. The rest of them have powers, so maybe they're dumb as shit.
I mean, they seem to be from everything we see in this volume.
Right, yeah, that's true. So, just as they're thinking, whoa, secret vault, this is sick, a velociraptor jumps out at them.
What do you guys
Honestly-
think when you first read that? Here's my impression of you. I made my eyebrows go up.
For those listening on the podcast version, Tim made a very surprised face just now.
Yeah. He was
I
like,
thought that was sick as
what?
hell because dinosaurs are rad.
Yeah, I love dinosaurs.
Yeah, the concept of, Gertrude's power is you have a dinosaur that listens to you is so fucking funny. And
It's so good.
it's just fun to see, like, in the various art styles of the comic goes through, the way that they draw old lace in various ways. And she's like very expressive, big face, giant puppy dog type situation. It's pretty cool.
Nose ring.
Yeah. And it's
Pretty
from like
Yeah.
20 or 80,000 years in the future. So that's cool.
Yeah,
Or
that was
8,000
also an
years- I don't
interesting
remember.
twist. They're like, oh, apparently at some point humanity will just be like, oh, now we don't just clone dinosaurs, we also can tame them as pets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That are psychically linked to listen to you.
Yeah, you'd
Which is
think
pretty
the time travel parents would be able to have something a little more interesting to contribute, but maybe it doesn't work that way.
I mean, again, dinosaurs, very cool. So I'm on
Yeah,
board.
I like Tim. It sounds like you're saying you wouldn't want a dinosaur as a pet, which that's not a vibe that I want to really be with. So.
No, I would. I'm just saying, like, they can go anywhere in the far future, so they could
Right.
bring back, like, a dinosaur is not incognito mode,
True.
But
Well,
they could give her
that's
two
actually very
things,
true.
because it's time travel. What do they care?
That's true.
True.
That's true.
I mean, it's basically
Maybe.
a protector.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
Go
I mean,
ahead,
to be
Jake.
fair, it was, this is 2003. And so they're like, this is for your 18th birthday. And she's what, like 16 or something?
She's 15.
So maybe
15,
maybe what they're counting on is that by the time she gets it, it's going to be like 2006, 2007, 2008. Where, as we all know, dinosaurs were really common for a couple years there. So
Yeah, that's true.
It would have actually blended in perfectly well. Everyone was having dinosaurs back then.
And they're like, we literally have all the time in the world due to the fact that we're time travelers. So, we'll just wait. They're going to get her probably a cooler gift. Not again, this is the coolest gift. But you also want to get a follow-up gift, a practical gift,
Okay.
like a diary or something, yeah.
Or like a suit of armor or something.
Yeah, or a diary,
Or a diary. Yeah, you're right.
Or a diary.
Or a diary, yeah.
That's a practical gift. The introduction of a dinosaur into the story, let's talk about issue 2. That was the point where I was like, I don't really get why this is here, but I am now incredibly on board, and I'm hooked. I want to know where this is going, even if just to kind of explore how shit it becomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's just so buck wild. So issue 2 definitely helped keep me going, because by the end, when they're searching the house and stuff, that's when I'm like, okay, this is getting good. And I do like how the basement is just full of crap, other than the secret passage with a dinosaur in it.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, I guess your parents were really into antiques. Like, no, they just go back in time and steal shit.
Right, and that's what I was just realizing. I'm like, wait a minute, these aren't antiques at all.
These are very new. They're just, from 1,000 years ago, but still they're only like 6 years old.
So they make all their money by antique dealing, where they get not actual antiques because they're still new from that era, and sell them for lots of money, I assume.
Right. I mean, there's no other way you can make money
here
with time travel other than buy like old vase and sell it, But you're probably right. The fact that that's what I'm saying is like the fact that they're not quadrillionaires in this world, shows
they, I'm assuming, are trying to keep a low profile. Like, they got to stay under the radar of like the actual superheroes, I think. What they're going for.
Like, if current events have really taught us anything, they could have just used their their time traveling powers to predict shares. Mm-hmm. And apparently, if you're rich, you can just invest however the fuck you want. No one will ever stop you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Let's jump into issue 3. So here, the raptor, while terrifying, actually doesn't attack until Chase, who's like the dumb jock, whose parents are the super nerds, decides to smash a lamp over its head. So if it weren't for the psychic connection with Gertrude, he would have immediately been eaten, which would have brought his story to a very quick close.
I would have been, honestly, can we just talk about Chase for a second? I would have been totally happy if he had been eaten by a dinosaur. I would have been happy with that. I did not like Chase the entire time I was reading this. I was like, I fucking hate this guy.
Yeah, but see, Kieran, can I just let me pitch this to you? He's a jock, but his parents are nerds.
That's so true, actually.
It's so, oh my God, like, now that I'm viewing it through that lens, it totally changes it.
Yeah. He gets better, and especially with his relationship with Molly as like the protective older brother and things like that, and he's the sort of like blunt one, and like he's the some other things. You learn to like him, but he sucks the longest.
He's the white kid who's always calling the black kid brother. And even Alex, within the context of the comic, is like, oh God, this guy again.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, if the kids from 2003 don't like you,
what
does that say?
Harsh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even like, I mean, sometimes you need the oblivious, stupid, blunt one. But even then, sometimes he sucks. But he gets a lot better.
Yeah. So this release of the Raptor also triggers a pre-recorded message that's a hologram of Gertrude's parents, explaining that if she's seeing this, they're probably dead, and that they are time travelers, and that it'll all be explained in the abstract, which is this big book that they have left her. It explains everything they've ever done and everything they need to do, because obviously they're doing some crazy time manipulation to, sway things in their favor is what they're setting up, I assume. But the whole thing's written with a cipher that they can't read, except this part killed me. There's an actual Dakota ring that they need to get that is actually with Carolina's parents, and she's the very the stereotypical from that era, blonde, bubbly, everything's super happy, fun times, and her parents are actors and they're vegans, and she's like, my parents couldn't be evil, they don't even eat meat.
Right.
And then she's Gertrude's not neither did Hitler. I'm like, yeah, this was 2003. Yeah. Remember when everyone called each other Hitler on the internet?
Yeah, I like Caroline because she's not like the ditz. She's very much like you said, of that era. There's a lot of those extremely capable but extremely middle of the road, chaste, smart, not really doing bad things, cooking, vegan, volunteering type stuff. Overachievers, which, I think they're good to have, especially on a story like this, where they're going to have to do some law breaking and parent fighting.
Yeah. Questionable things too.
Morally questionable things.
Yeah.
So they go to Caroline's house and figure out where this ring is, so they can figure out what the heck this cipher's about. So they go there and start searching that house, and Chase, for some reason, digging through her parents' paperwork, as teens do, finds their will. And it's just hey, check this out. And
this shit out.
Yeah. Just starts reading through his friend's parents' will.
I mean,
I liked how many pages it
evil,
was, and how there's enough stuff to read over. I don't know what wills look like, but I did like that, and I do kind of like the setup here of it's very breadcrumb-y of hey, we need to get this thing, and then we need to get this thing, and then it gets to the point in the next issue or so where it's well, if they got stuff, I want stuff, which I think is a really great way to split the narrative of it feels like they're just gonna go da next person of okay, to decode it, you need to get the ring. To decode the ring, you need to get the scroll, and to get the scroll, you need to get the ancient rabbit. But no,
it
I
felt
really
like
love
adventure
that.
game logic to me, like an old point and click game where it's
And I love
you got to make the chicken pulley to get across.
Exactly, and I love that they ditched that. As soon as the next issue, it's nope, she got something, I want something, and then they have to they run it. They check in with the other powers through the parents are now at this location and stuff. I thought that I really liked that setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one weird thing about the will, though, the last page is just a picture, and it's just the symbol you see at a hospital, the medical symbol, except it has the Ghostbusters red thing with the cross through it. They even call it that. They even call it why's it got that Ghostbusters symbol
That's
on
so
it?
funny.
Which
kids from 2003, huge fans of Ghostbusters, constantly just using it as a cultural, societal touchstone.
Right, not learning how to drive.
All kids love Ghostbusters,
and super into just recently memorized every single road sign.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a stupid joke. I need to apologize when I said that was funny. It wasn't funny. I still did a giggle, but it's not funny. It's
okay.
I laughed, but it wasn't funny.
I still did
laugh. Yeah. Okay. The last page of the will being the medical symbol crossed out. I'm sorry. It was the dumbest thing in this. I was no. No, I refuse to accept. This was so stupid.
It was so stupid.
So the point, though, let's talk about why it's
sorry,
dumb.
yes. Let's talk about why it was.
Carolina has always worn a medical alert bracelet, which has that symbol, of course, because according to her parents, she's deathly allergic to penicillin. Or is she? So
oh.
She might be. We don't
not
know.
content with just removing the bracelet, she grabs it and breaks it off her wrist, which is a thing they always do in movies.
They always with necklaces.
And I'm just like, dude, you're gonna have. Those are such a pain in the butt to fix.
Stresses
when
me
you bend
out.
one of the
Yeah,
loops. Come
on.
And then she immediately starts glowing all these crazy rainbow colors and finds out she can fly. So the medical alert no symbol meant destroy this bracelet that's suppressing your powers.
Yeah. That was silly, but I guess it makes sense. It almost makes sense within the world of like, what's a clue only she would understand, but it's still very much like what if she read that when she had the will, like, whatever. Not super
like in
important.
front of her lawyer. Like
exactly.
The family lawyer, and she's just like,
she's standing in front of the family lawyer.
Which also implies
like,
she has never taken it off. Not to shower, not to clean it, nothing, which is disturbing in its own right, I have to say.
Yeah, that's actually true. She would have never, like, that patch under her wrist, raw, dirty, just
gnarly,
gross,
smells like horrific.
Oh my god! Reminds me when I was a kid
stained.
and never took off my watch. It smelled so bad.
Mm-hmm. I was there with you, bud.
That is exactly the same. I will never forget. This is a really gross story. I will never forget when I took off I had wearing my watch all day, wore it for gym and like all that kind of stuff, running around. I was like 13, and I was like, what? Took off my watch, and then for some reason I was like, I'm going to smell this. And boy, man, you never smell it twice, because it was fucking foul.
Yeah, we used to take it off our wrists and like shove it in our friends' faces and stuff like that. Like, hey, smell that.
Gross. All right, so this issue ends with the police station that they actually called earlier to report their parents. The chief calls in the guy that took the call and was like, oh man, what was that crazy prank call you got? So he tells him, he's like, you've been working all these overtime shifts and you should just go home for the night. And he's like, oh, thanks, boss. You're the best. And then that guy turns around and immediately calls Alex's dad, whom he actually calls sire. So like, he's the king of California. I don't know. We don't know yet.
In the first draft, he actually calls up and he's like, hey, daddy, I just want to let you know about this call.
Controversial.
Yeah,
so, we find out that, this guy's a friggin' narc and rats them out immediately. But, ACAB. So, that's the end of that issue there. And Tim, what did you think of third issue?
Yeah, I think third issue is when it really starts going, so to speak, because we get a little bit more of another character is so different, and different, kind of like explaining why there's the raptor, and it seems to be kind of moving forward, and then the whole like tying it up with the cop ratting them out to the dad makes you like, okay, here's the stakes. And I think that's like a really fun thing about this one. I think this one like goes really quickly comparatively, because it's just like two big set pieces, with a little bit of driving here and there and talking about like what situation they're really in. But all in all, yeah, it's like the like a couple big punches, and then it's like, okay, here's what the situation we're in. These kids are completely alone. They can't trust anybody, which is always the greatest part of a situation like this. We're like, oh crap, they can't do anything.
There's no one to turn to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, you kind of knew it had to go that direction, but it was, I thought that part was actually done kind of well, where it wasn't like every single person in the world is like working for their dad or their parents, but he definitely has people in key positions in like
exactly the
law
fact
enforcement,
that the first
government and stuff to make everything work how he needs it to.
Yeah,
which I thought that was good. Like it wasn't like the twist being, hey, everyone's Hydra and always has been.
Right. Yeah, the first cop not knowing it was a really good choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and I have to say, the thing I know Kieran and I talk about a lot is. In a lot of books, and I feel like especially superhero books, by like issue 3 is generally when you can tell, like, is this worth continuing or is this going to grip me? And this one it's still a little slippery for me compared to some of the other stuff we've read, but like it was interesting enough that I did want to know, like, okay, now what's the next kid's power going to be? You know, what's the next crazy thing they're going to run into? So I think that hook worked the best for me in this issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the next issue is when it starts to quote unquote get good. But I think this one's where it's starting to be like set the stakes, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think for me, like if the cop hadn't called the dad at the end of this issue, I don't know if I would have necessarily been like as like invested, because I feel like setting up all the powers and kind of like them going to the different houses to, you know, as we said before, get the ring, to get the scroll, to get the rabbit kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like that was fun, but it was starting to feel a little bit like, you know, just a bunch of mini kind of origin stories, but having the cop thing kind of thrown in at the end there is like a little bit of a wrench. I was like, okay, now I'm like curious I'm curious at least where this is going to go. Yeah. Because it's quite obvious that they are going to have to solve this by themselves through their own means. How are they going to do that? Yeah. So, yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. It's tight.
Right. Well, let's jump into issue 4 then. Kieran, you want to take it away?
Yeah. Alex's dad enters his bedroom holding the ceremonial knife behind his back. He claims that he was going to explain that it was all an illusion, but they fell for the old mannequin head in the bed trick.
Oh, crap.
We've all been there.
Fucking
You guys all have mannequin heads sitting around for when you needed to sneak out as a kid, right?
I mean, yeah.
No, actually, funny you should mention that. Nick does actually have 2 mannequins.
Well, that's fair.
Wait, does he have any heads?
I was going to say, doesn't Nick use those for his job, though?
No, he actually doesn't have any heads. He only has 2 torsos.
Oh. So he would have had to use, like, a balloon or something and then just shove the torso
with like a face that he draws on.
Draws the face, yeah.
Yeah.
Are like, oh, I've been fooled!
So Alex's dad wants to handle all of this quietly, so that the rest of the pride doesn't murder him over all of this, which I think they would. They would do that.
Yeah,
and it also is
they
like...
don't seem like they get along the best. Like, maybe they just tolerate each other.
Exactly, and that's another part where I kind of wish this scene was in the previous issue, because I think that's also a really good point that they need to bring in, is like there's like kind of some light internal strife of like, you know, hey, we're not going to tell other people. And it's not a situation of where they're like tight. We don't know exactly what that means, but, you know, I do like that it kind of introduces the concept of like they don't trust each other 1,000%.
Yeah. Yeah. Back at the Dean residence, Carolina is having a great old time flying around outside, but they decide that maybe they should be a little more discreet, and she puts on her now somehow inexplicably fixed medic alert bracelet. That's true. She broke that shit real hard.
I had to make sure I put that in the notes, because I'm like, it shows it shatter, and not just like break in one spot, like all these like rings
all the
or
links,
chains like link break.
Burst everywhere.
Yeah. And then later she's just like, yeah, it's fine. Don't ask.
Yeah, it happens.
You know what? Alex fixed it because he's a genius.
Well, he's going to fix it again later, by the way, because this literally happens again.
Well, okay, maybe it's a bracelet from the future, and in the future, bracelets, if you dramatically tear them off, they will actually fix themselves.
Nice. Well, you know, I'm looking forward to that day.
Yeah, also, it's going to save a lot of people a lot of money. But they decide to go to the Stein residence next and break into Chase's parents' workshop. I believe because Chase, as we mentioned before, basically complains that he wants powers.
It's like,
as
where's
well.
my cool powers, guys?
Right.
Yeah. Where's my stuff? And Alex, I think quite rightly, I did agree with him, was like, shut up. Like, we can't be wasting time, you know, doing that. But fine, I guess. So inside the workshop, it's basically a TARDIS, which is, you know, it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. And they find a lot of really cool gadgets like X-ray spectacles that allow Chase to immediately just start perving on all the girls. Yeah.
And he never tells them. That's sick.
Never tells them. Also, this is a comic book featuring underage children.
Yep.
And they draw them in their underwear, and I was like,
yeah.
yeah. Not a good look here, Marvel.
Yikes!
We love this.
Yikes!
This is really cool.
I mean, they draw Mary Jane in the Spider-Mans extremely hornily, and the version of Spider-Man's that I was reading is the one where he's like 15. I was like, come on, just age him up a little bit, bro. And
no, this is not okay. Marvel, from 2003. Come on,
it's pretty bad. And Chase sucks. Just want to really re-emphasize
really
point
drive
here.
that home.
He sucks real bad. Then, thankfully interrupting this, the adults arrive to stop them, but Carolina's bracelet is broken off again by Alex, so she can help fight them off. During the battle, Nico's mother tries using the Staff of One on her, but her body absorbs it, apparently. Gertrude's raptor then shows up and distracts the Rents long enough for them to escape.
Call back.
While they made it out, Chase now has a pair of robot hands that he can't figure out how to remove, so he now has powers as well.
Yep.
Thoughts on
weird
this?
I do like that they mention at some point that the Staff of One is like a thing that even Dormammu was afraid of, so you know that shit's going to go down at some point with that staff.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we don't know what. It doesn't come up in this volume. She only uses it like as a bludgeon.
I will say she used it once on accident.
Oh, that's true. She does just say like freeze or something, and it shoots ice at them.
Yeah,
I think the Staff of One is like the most interesting thing in the comic, to the extent that I'm going to tell you briefly how it works, which is a quote unquote spoiler, but I think it's that sort of thing of where it's like, this is one of the reasons why this is cool. I'll just simply say the mechanic is Nico has to say each spell is based on her words. So freeze, they freeze. But she can only do it once. Yeah. So she can never say freeze again. So
I only know that because the little bit of volume 2 I started to read, they start figuring that out because she tries to cast freeze again and a bunch of like geese appear.
Yeah, so if she tries to cast something that she's already done, then it either fails or something weird happens. So you get like towards like, volume 17 and she's like, and she's like freaking out of like what to say next. So that I thought that was a really cool.
Just saying, if someone hasn't already made that an item in D&D, let's just pick a random tabletop game. Then I think it would be a very cool thing for a character to own.
Yeah,
Michael.
It is funny that they just bonk with it, and then later we find out that it's based on like blood, like she gets cut and then it comes out for some reason.
Oh yeah, that's the other crazy thing about it. She has to like cut herself for it to like reemerge.
Right,
you gotta pay the price, man. It's magic,
Yeah, and it's really
what is that called?
It's kind of
from Full Metal Alchemist. Come on, nerds, help me.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing too for the other thing because like. Nico is definitely like the manic pixie dream girl. She like makes all of her own clothes. She's very gothy. She, is complaining about specific black makeup and things like that. So it's definitely like they're writing her to be like very desirable and trendy and chic and unique and things like that. And they also kind of make her sort of like gothy. And then the fact that they add like a cutting thing to it is like, well, that's weird, but all in all, it is like it's used really well in the future. If like someone attacks her and there's like you fucked up, which is cool.
Yeah, it's that she's probably in my opinion, most interesting character. But I also feel like they put the most work into her character, as far as what you were saying. Like she's more fleshed out, at least now. Like this early on, she is like probably the most fleshed out character.
Yes,
out of this group.
Yes,
and I'm sure that changes as it goes, but in these early days.
Yeah, I think they put a lot of work into Carolina. I think Carolina becomes probably the most interesting one. But, various other people have their own things, and, I won't say anymore.
Okay, that's fair.
Right, where were we? That's right, Chase has robot hands, and he can't get them off. Honestly, my very first thought is and he says it too. How's he going to go to the toilet?
Right. That's his first thing. He's like, how am I going to wipe, guys? Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of the quote unquote good thing about Chase is that he just tries stuff where the others are like cautious and smart. He's like, no, I'm going to put my hand inside these gloves. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to do it. So like, there's a lot of times that he like helps the gang, because he just like acts, right? Oftentimes he also hurts the gang because he just acts. But yeah, this part's very funny. But one of the things I wanted to say earlier is that their costuming is really hokey, and especially the tech people
Really?
who just have like rice cookers and like stupid shit. It's so funny. It's such a. I'm hoping they knew they were doing this because it's such a good choice.
They had to,
if
right?
they knew.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah,
and like the magical parents, full on look straight out of Mortal Kombat. Like
yes,
the weird monk dudes, they just copy and pasted that outfit.
Yes, exactly. You're totally right. So the fact that he just picks up like weird gauntlets is really silly.
Well, not only that, but at some point they mentioned they're like one of the most, if not the most powerful, like thing they happen to have in the lab.
Yeah,
and he just happened to pick those up, and I'm like,
happened to pick them up.
Yeah, because it's like it was what they're like working on.
Them?
Yeah, no,
I don't know.
There's a lot of quote unquote coincidences happening in this first issue or volume because like, no, we got to go, we got to get to it.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
So, to close out this issue, Gertrude gets a call from her parents telling them to turn themselves in or something bad might happen to Molly, the youngest in the teen squad, who is also in this story.
Yes, they keep forgetting she exists, though.
Yeah.
So that was issue 4. So issue 4.
That was issue 4. Big fight. Big fight. Loved the fight. There was a big fight in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was good. Liked it.
I do like the ones that have discovered their power are already like experimenting with how they could use it in the situations. So like having the staff and just being like, I don't know, freeze, and it works. And then having Carolina has the light thing, and she's like, well, what if I focused all that power into my fingertip? Like, could I shoot it like a beam? And she gets a chance to try that because there's a fight immediately. So she's able to blast one of their parents. And the raptor, we find out, will not attack Gertrude's parents because obviously they're smart enough to know, like, hey, we're getting it tamed for her. We should have it tamed where it won't kill us, just in case.
But now here's the thing, though. Her parents get it coded so that the raptor won't attack them.
Yes.
But the raptor is a gift for when they die. So why, like, why
they had to transport
a theory.
They got to transport it,
That's true. They had to transport it.
Of course,
also,
they have to transport it. Of course.
You have to think because they mention in the next one that they go to alternate timelines too. Maybe they've seen an alternate timeline where she found it early. So they were like, let's not have that happen again.
Yeah. And the part we're talking
about... Any complaints that I had about this book, I take them all back.
There you go.
I see the light.
Some of the things you're saying actually are explained later. But
okay. Well, that's good.
Oh, okay. All right.
That actually makes me more interested in reading more of this than I would have been. Yeah. So any other thoughts on issue 4 before we move on?
Yeah, no, this is where it starts to get good because they start fighting.
Yeah, I was going to say, I kind of want to just blast through because 5 and 6 are where it gets a lot more interesting. Yeah. So in issue 5, it turns out all the rents were bluffing because they're like, yeah, we're not actually going to murder the small child in her bed. We just wanted to, be here, get all the kids to come here so we can detain them and possibly kill them. I don't know.
I mean, like, the number of like slurs and edginess in this book, if they had killed a child just like for the shock value of it, I wouldn't have been like, whoa, that's fair. That's surprising.
I think the early 2000s were the era of the dumbest shit you can think of just for shock value in comics.
Yeah, I could see that.
Warren Ellis's entire career is built on it, if we're being honest.
I do love the ongoing sort of backstory of Molly because the whole joke is like, oh, she's starting her period and no one wants to talk to her about it.
That's like an ongoing problem.
Yeah.
But then the being prepared for anything that the parents do includes, and this is where the alternate timelines comes in. One of them is wielding what I call the Chekhov's samurai battle axe from an alternate past.
Which I thought was cool.
It was stupid, but also I enjoyed it.
Yeah, because
Yes.
I imagine what they're trying to say briefly is like there's a timeline where instead of making katanas, all samurai had battle axes, and it's like that's sick.
Samurai were basically Vikings in that timeline. It sounds like so. I can get on board with that. So then the kids show up, and now Alex is. We've been told as the audience that he's a master tactician, so he's just become the leader of their group. With like everyone just kind of fell into position with that, like listening to him, which also makes me wonder, like if that is just part of his ability, just a natural leadership that people follow because he's just so good at it. Like it's not actually a power. Some people are just that way, you know, just charismatic leader is his power.
Yeah.
So they arrive at the house to save Molly, and they use the raptor as a distraction. And this is where actually we find out it's trained not to harm Gertrude's parents. But then Nico runs in and is accidentally cut on the samurai battle axe, which triggers the spell we mentioned earlier that brings forth the Staff of One. And then it shoots out of her like like a Jack in the Box and smashes Gertrude's dad in the face. So that's how he is defeated.
It's
which
really silly.
Was hilarious.
Yeah, it's good though.
Because you expect her to cast some sort of spell, and she's just bonks him in the face.
And it has that like screechy scratchy writing, so I imagine she's saying it in some weird way. When it comes out, like by the blood be born or whatever it is she says. And
she's like, when the blood is shed, let a staff of one emerge. That's how she's saying.
Yeah. Oi,
mate, come on out here.
So back outside, Carolina and Chase are actually waiting for their part of the plan. But before they can enact it, Carolina's mom shows up and is like, you know, I'm going to be able to stop you guys because we're apparently crazy aliens from another planet that have superpowers. And she uses that light show stuff, which is one of those, like, whatever we need it to do powers, it feels like, to restrain Chase because he has the gauntlet things on. But Carolina's like, well, if this bracelet turns my powers off, maybe punching my mom in the face will turn her powers off. And it works.
Yeah, I love it.
I do love the thing where she's just like cracks her on the side of the head and she's like, oh, the bracelet.
Like,
that's what did it.
Yeah,
was it that
totally.
or was it being punched in the temple?
My head, I totally agree with you. It had nothing to do with the bracelet. It was just she punched her in the head.
Like, I can't wait for in like volume 7 when they're trying to like finally take her mum down like for good, and she's like, and like puts the bracelet on her wrist, and she's like, this doesn't nothing.
Do anything.
The bracelet does nothing. It's useless. It's a medic alert bracelet.
Right.
Yeah.
It's because you're allergic to penicillin.
You're allergic. You are allergic to penicillin. This bracelet has penicillin in it. I'm not allergic to penicillin. Your reaction is you can't turn into a light show person.
Exactly.
I do like. I don't know where they do it, but I do like that. I'm pretty sure they make like a Jubilee reference.
Yes, they reference a lot of other characters in this book.
Yeah,
I've noticed,
and that's one thing I do like about this is they're very it's very tongue in cheek for a lot of it. There are certain characters that do show up later, and they complain about like not getting the good ones or this, that, the other thing. So I do like that. Broadly speaking, it is a world of teens with the Avengers and stuff like that existing. Whenever there's like when they're commenting on the meta narrative of existing in the Marvel universe, and especially being all the way out there in California, I think that's cool.
Yeah, it definitely helps set it apart from the main canon, but also you can bring those characters in whenever you want because they're all just a few dozen states away.
Yeah, and for crossover events in this timeline, they exist, right?
So at the end of this one, Molly, who's been asleep this entire time through a spell, basically that's been keeping her asleep, wakes up and has blood coming out of her nose. And that was actually one of the weird things she was talking about, was she keeps getting these nosebleeds because it turns out she is a mutant, and she, because of the stress she is under, that's usually the thing that awakens people's mutant powers. So she starts getting very glowy pink eyes and basically turns Super Saiyan. And that's where this one ends, is when she thinks that her mom is being threatened because of Nico showing up with the staff and hitting her mom in the head. So Molly, of course, not knowing what's going on, is just like, hey, this person I barely know just hit my mom with a giant magic staff. I should probably stop this. And that's where issue 5 ends. Mostly, I would say this one is like the action issue. Like, okay, you guys were waiting for a fight. Here's your fight. So I don't have too much to say about this one.
Here's where everyone gets to like show off their powers and how they all kind of work like together in a way. I feel like there's a little bit kind of like, there's like an echo of like, this will be like a really cool like superhero team that does like a bunch of different crazy stuff together.
Yeah.
But obviously they've only kind of just come together, so it's a little bit amateurish.
Yeah.
But I still really liked it.
Yeah, they're always just flying by the seat of their pants and like barely getting by. And the only way that they're able to like succeed is that they're fighting people who don't want to kill them.
Yes. Yeah. Like if the parents wanted them dead by now, they would have been. We definitely get the sense that is the case in this situation. Because they clearly have lots of weird connections all over the planet. So, but yeah, that I don't know. Unless you guys have something else to say, I think we should just jump into issue 6 so we can talk about the book as a whole.
Let's do it.
Kieran, would you like to take issue 6?
Oh, fuck. Yeah, sorry, that's me. Right. So, issue 6, which I knew I was taking this whole time. The rest of the kids explain to Molly what is going on. At first, she doesn't slash them, but then Carolina's mom shows up with her powers restored, and she restrains Gertrude, and Molly gets mad and pushes her with her super strength that she doesn't know she had, or didn't know she had. When they go and check on her, they find the ring mentioned earlier that can decipher the book from Gertrude's parents. Ooh, the Dakota Ring. This is a really weird post-death like setup, because like that would mean that the Dakota Ring is like, it was literally on her hand, so it's like obviously significant. So then they're giving it to her after her parents.
Well, they're supposed to give her the ring on her 18th birthday, regardless.
So like all the parents should theoretically have the ring. It's just that the way
it sounds like most of their plans revolved around waiting until each kid was 18 and then like bringing them up to speed on what was going on.
Yes,
I believe so. Yes, yeah. Anyway, I'm not a all-powerful elite supervillain billionaire, so what do I know? The kids manage to escape with Molly and the ring, but they realize the ring can only translate every other word, so there's another piece of the puzzle that they need to find. As they discuss what to do next, they discover that they're on the news, and the police are after them for the murder of the girl their parents killed all the way back in issue 1, and for kidnapping Molly. It turns out that Alex's dad basically owns the entire town. Chase says he has a hiding place where they can fall off the face of the earth.
Would you trust Chase if he's like, hey, I got a place that we can hide out?
Yeah.
And when he first brings up, they're like, Chase, shut up. He's like, all right.
Yeah, no, I would not. I would, yeah. It's like, I know a place where we can go. I was like, yeah, well, we're going to a motel. We're going literally anywhere else.
Well, they have no money. They can't use their cards or anything, or else their parents will be able to track them. So they're
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Chase has that plumber van, so he can blend in. It's one of the weirder plot points, but you know, hey.
Yeah. So the Rents discuss what to do next when Carolina's mum discovers an unsigned note that reads, "Mum and Dad, I love you, and I know you have reasons for doing what you did. Don't worry, I'll always be loyal to you." But who left it?
Don't know. It doesn't say in this volume.
What's happening?
Damn. That's crazy. Maybe it was the Velociraptor.
I'm guessing Carolina.
I'm guessing Gertrude.
Ooh,
no, Molly.
Don't tell me, though. Because
I know the answer.
Might read more of this.
Yeah, same.
It's I will say this whole thing is really cool.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. All right. So it's not like lame.
No.
Thank God. Right. Chase's secret hideaway is an old collapsed mansion that an earthquake swallowed up, which he calls the hostel, which Not a great name.
No.
Pretty stupid.
The youth
pretty
hostel.
Bad.
It's cool.
The youth hostel, yeah. Here the kids get to what is really important, picking their hero names. Gertrude is now Arsenic, and the raptor is called Old Lace. Carolina is now Lucy in the Sky. Nico is now Grim. Chase is Neo, apparently. Molly is Princess Powerful.
She's Bruiser.
And Alex is
I
Alex.
just put that in because I thought it was a better name. They actually stick with
that's right.
Bruiser for her name, which is lame.
That's right.
Princess Powerful. Now that's a name I can
Princess
get behind.
Powerful is fucking good.
Imagine getting your shit kicked in by a superhero named Princess Powerful. You know, that's that's a good hero name. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. And Chase does go by Talkback.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
He does. Okay.
Yeah, that's a name for him, I guess. And Alex keeps Alex because
Alex keeps Alex. Yeah. And then we end the entire volume ends with the group turning to the camera to say, if being an adult means turning into the people that raise us, I hope I die before I get old.
Oh.
And then like some like mid 2000s like alt rock starts playing, and there's like a big splash and the credits roll.
Would this have been during the ska revival? I can't remember.
Some alt ska.
Some mighty boss tones come in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The end is a little weird. I think that it's, I don't know. It's they're basically like, we have to hide, but we're going to do some good while we do it. And I was like, damn, when I first read this, I was like, damn, what are they going to do? Are they going to become, like the West Coast Avengers type situation and stop little crimes here and there? Or like, what's the story going forward? So I was definitely intrigued. I don't think it was the most exciting end, but it was definitely an exhale. It didn't end on a huge cliffhanger. The cliffhanger was, is there a rat, and if so, who is it? Type situation. So it's like, okay, we've built the cool world, and now we can like take a breath. Which that's another type of ending. It's just not the type of ending where you have to like sprint and start the next one. Even though still it's like a more low key version of like, all right, let's see how they get by.
Yeah, definitely. This entire volume is just all set up because they have a lot to set up in this volume.
Yeah,
so that will bring us to issue 6 / final thoughts. Tim, do you want to kick us off?
I've said most of the stuff already. I really do like Runaways. I think it's. I can't imagine reading this, month to month or what have you. It's to me, it's like extremely bingeable. It's like. It's a really fast read. There's, the plot keeps going forward. It's not incredibly intense. And it's so like, I've read arcs of Spider-Man that would have an entire, like, introduce a villain, have the villain fight, and then end it like all in the exact same
volume.
Exactly. So, it's interesting in that sense, that like, comparatively not a lot happens, but yet they're moving super fast. So I definitely have the vibe of, okay, if they're doing this, then that means they're trying to set the world up so that they in the future don't have to do all of this. So I usually give stuff like that a pass a little bit,
sure.
And it's still broadly speaking a really interesting idea of like, okay, we're kids. Some of us with superpowers, but our parents are supervillains who've been, doing this for who knows how long. How are we going to get around to doing this? And yeah, I really liked it. I enjoyed reading it again. Trying to think what other insights from the first volume from reading it a second time. No, not really. Nothing really stands out at the end. Just everything I said before.
Okay. Yeah. Would you recommend this book? That's
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would always say you have to stick with it. If someone was like, oh, I read it and didn't like it, I would follow up with, did you just pick it up randomly or did someone warn you?
That's what I was going to say. I'm like, so overall, like, again, if I had not been recommended this by several people, this was when I read it a few years back, I probably would have bounced pretty quickly because concept, I love it. This whole like finding out their parents are evil and not even knowing they have powers yet. That is a great concept. I can see why people love this book. That said, this is some of the worst dialogue I've read in a book in a while. And that, and we've read some turds on this show before.
We've read some shit, yeah.
And I mean, it is not the worst thing we've read dialogue-wise. That honor goes to what the hell was that book called?
Next Wave Agents of Hate.
Yeah, that book sucks.
God, I cannot believe how bad that was.
But anyway, this book, I very reluctant, like, you have to tell people what they're getting into because the writing is so 2003 trying to be edgy. And like, if I had known that going in, I probably would have given that stuff a little bit more of a pass, maybe.
Yeah,
but
and the art just sometimes looks like a webcomic, and
the
writing sometimes looks like a webcomic,
yes.
And it's like,
yeah,
you have to know that it's like of a time, of a place, and eventually it gets better, and then eventually they quote unquote reboot it, where they pick it back up in 2013. So it's not a reboot; it's just. It's been several years. They jump ahead. Well, it picks up pretty much at the very end of what happens, I remember. So it's much better in that section. That chunk is much better. It's weirder. And it gets better. That's another thing too. That is the thing. And it's not, I don't think it's necessarily a book that you have to read 3 volumes for it to get good. I think volume 1 is like iffy. But like,
I think
has
there's
the
enough
groundwork.
Stuff happens in volume 1.
It
definitely kept me
agree.
going once you got to like issue 3, like I was saying.
Yeah.
Like that's when you're like, because then you're starting to get more into the mystery of like, well, what are people, what are their powers going to be, or what, how are they going to incorporate this from whatever their parents' deal is into theirs?
I forget how many volumes the first arc is. I think it might be 7 because I was kind of confused and I accidentally read out of order because it just starts over. You have to buy Runaways Volume 1 parentheses 2013 version. And I was like, this sucks. But
okay, so here's the hot tip from me to people listening. If you're going to go back and read these like older books like this, just Marvel Unlimited, man. Just like subscribe, use your free trial, whatever. Like because you can just go find a team or character on their search and it'll just say, okay, here's all the issues in order.
That's so smart.
And I because I've been like, oh, what's the deal with Taskmaster? Like I've never actually read anything with him. So I just typed it in and started reading his first appearance. So,
all right, that's cool. Yeah. Like I opened it up and there was like the craziest 3 sentences happening. It was like, what the fuck? It's so, because like so many different things can happen in it due to like what they've given us so far. Because it's like we got mutants, we got sorcerers, we got time travelers, we got tech geniuses, and we got aliens, and then we got whatever the other people are. And it's like, so anything can happen. So it's just it's so
that's
funny.
why I'm excited to actually read more, because I'm like, I'm going to give the dated dialogue a pass for now, because like I said, the actual setup is so interesting to me, and like not knowing, like nobody's ever spoiled this book for me, so like I have no idea where they're going with it, which is a thing I can't say for a lot of books these days with the internet and everything, So I actually downloaded volume 2, and like if I had more time, I would have started. I mean, I only read like the next issue or 2, and even that was like, okay, I'm already liking this because they moving ahead with like, okay, setup is done, volume 1's done, let's move on. Like that actually got me more on board with it, jumping into volume 2.
They fight a vampire at one point. It's crazy.
Okay, Kieran, I don't want to step on your toes. What's your final thoughts on this?
There's some stuff which we've discussed which is not good. But I think keeping in mind that it's from 2013, keep in mind that it's from 2003, it's from a certain time, it's from a certain place.
As we keep having to say.
Yeah. Keeping that in mind, there is, I think, enough good stuff here to kind of keep you into it and keep you reading and motivated. And for me, honestly, I probably will at some point go and read volume 2. I don't know that I would immediately go and read volume 2 is the thing. For me, the end of issue 6, like it kind of felt like an end for me. And that it was like, we've set up this cool superhero team. but I wasn't like, holy fuck, what, I have to know what's going to happen next. So I think the ending is maybe a little bit weak, but the setup is really cool. The premise is really awesome. And yeah, I think I would recommend it. I think I would recommend it to our beautiful listeners that they go and check out Runaways Volume 1, just with the caveats that we've mentioned.
That we've talked about several times.
At length, yeah. But,
All right. Well, thank you for listening, everybody, and thank you for joining us, Tim.
No, thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. And where can people find you online? I mean, obviously, the people in the chat already know to follow this channel, but
yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at tim-lanning. I also do several podcasts. If you like people talking about Naruto, I do Naruto Revuto. If you like people talking about relationship advice and people's relationship to said weird online version to relationship advice, then listen to Dear Internet. It's very funny and good. It might cure depression, maybe. Who's to say?
It's very good.
It probably won't, but whatever.
I was in a much better mood listening to it the other day than I was earlier. So,
also there is the D&D 5e podcast of which I'm on. Greetings, Adventurers. Find that wherever fine podcasts are. Or if you are bored during the day and you want something to sup upon, every Thursday at 2 p.m. on twitch.tv/geeklyinc, I run a Rime of the Frost Maiden game that I know that you would love, and it's just a fun time. You know what I'm saying? Just hanging out, just chilling.
Yeah. Cool people chilling, having a good time.
Yeah,
literally, because it's cold.
Yeah, I like that you went from hell to ice planet or whatever, or ice town, whatever.
I mean, I didn't do it. That is just the most
goes.
Recent Wizards of the Coast release. So they did hell, and then they did ice. So who knows?
You got to go from one to the other. It only makes sense. Kieran, where can people find you?
You can find me online. I'm on Twitter. I'm at Mr. K_Bennett. You can also check out my D&D podcast for Crits and Giggles. That is at for CNG Podcast. Tim's actually been on that podcast. So go and check out those episodes. They're really good. And yeah, Jonah, where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at @ARealJonah. You can also follow the account for this show at Inks and Issues. And we're a geekly show, so that's why we're on this channel right now. So in case anyone wasn't aware that's listening or watching on the Twitch. We also have a Twitch for Inks and Issues, which is just Inks and Issues like everything else, which, we occasionally use for streaming like retro stuff and whatnot because it's fun. So you can check us out there if you are so inclined. But with that, we'll see you next time for the unbeatable Squirrel Girl beats up the Marvel Universe. Thank you everyone for joining us live on the Twitch channel here.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all next time. Goodbye and have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye. I love you.
Need more mutants, metahumans, or monsters in your life? Then check out these other Geekly Inc. shows, including Cthulhu and Friends, Dear Internet, Greetings Adventurers, Transformation Sequence, and many more fantastic podcasts. You can help us make the show the best it can be by supporting us over at patreon.com/inksandissues, where you can get bonus content, early access to episodes, and can even vote on comics for us to review. Don't forget to also leave us a 5-star rating and review to help us spread the word. Want to interact with us on Twitter? You can find us at Inks and Issues or on Twitch at twitch.tv/inksandissues. Now do yourself a favor and go read some gosh darn comics.